All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, going to shout out Sovereign Extracts here. If you need some CBD oil, some THC cartridges, CBD cartridges, hybrid options, they've got you covered in that regard. But also, big shout out to USG Canada, putting out great apparel for boxers, MMA fighters, and for fans alike. And this is going to be a great tilt going at Bellator 245. It is happening on September the 11th. We got a heavyweight bout between Jack May and Tyrell Fortune. And I have Tyrell on the show. How's your day going so far there, man?
I'm going good, man. Just had some breakfast, like 5 miles last night, just relaxing. I'm here in Las Vegas with my teammate, Kevin Natividad, and just got his call into the UFC, so he debuts tomorrow, and I'm just excited to be here to support him and getting ready for the big show.
Yeah, so has the training been a great deal different for this one? Like you mentioned being in Vegas there, like have you been doing most of your training preparations out there? Because I know Arizona Combat Sports has been big for you in the past, but has this one been mostly Vegas centric, this fight camp?
No, I just came out here just on Monday for the fight week. I've been in Arizona the whole camp training at Arizona Combat and Tower and other boxing gyms there, but no, all my training's been in Arizona still with Trevor Riley. Yeah. All right, give me a minute. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I mean, that's a great facility to be putting in work at. Like, I understand you have some past experiences working with, the reigning Bellator heavyweight champ, Ryan Bader. Who are some of the other people you're putting in work with there at Arizona Combat Sports?
My main sparring partners this camp have been Sullivan Kanoe. He's an amateur, he's a pro now. I'm not sure what organization he last fought in, but yeah, so Sullivan and Angel Young, who's also a boxer, professional boxer. And there's a few other boxers that I was using that were fight for Top Rank that I don't really know their names too well. No, mostly those most of my sparring partners, and then I was wrestling with a couple of guys that was on the USA Team circuit, getting some wrestling again. So it was a great camp for me. I think I was able to add a lot of different things, especially with adding Neuroforce to my team, having the workouts there, and then focus on the recovery and just building me as an athlete, to optimize my body as an athlete. So I think adding that in made a big difference to this camp. And coronavirus didn't really affect it too much. I got keys to the gym, so I set up training pretty much on every day when I need to, and do more. And anytime I need to go in there, I can. So for me, it was a great training camp. It just was, I guess, hard just because I kept getting pushed back a little bit, delayed, and didn't really know who I was going to fight. And then, but now that that's all settled, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, because it seems like Neuroforce 1 has really just, paid dividends for your training and stuff like that. And like obviously you were firing on all cylinders before, but it seems like it's brought you to even that sort of next level. Like what, I guess, specific benefits have you gotten from the Neuroforce 1 training that you've been doing for a little bit and just kind of integrating that into camp?
In the 15 weeks that I was there, I gained 8 pounds of muscle, lost 6% body fat. Completely changed my cardio. It added so much to my cardio and just strength in general overall. That company is all about optimizing the athlete to the best athlete. Whatever sport or activity that you're doing, it's going to put you in the best position to perform that you can. And I truly feel like that's what they've done. And now within the last couple of weeks, I've added to a diet, a nutritionist to my camp too. So I think that's just another thing that's going to add to my game, that we just having all the nutrition and having all the things to back that my muscles and stuff with the nutrition and energy that it needs to perform. So I think that's just another thing that those little trinkets make a big difference in the whole machine.
Absolutely, just leveling up from camp to camp. But I'm kind of curious for this fight here, what with this being like your first fight back since the first loss of the pro MMA career there. Is the mindset a great deal different at all? Is there like a redemptive kind of component to this fight in any kind of way? Or do you have to look at each fight as just like a separate kind of instance and there's not like a linear kind of thing where like the prior fight informs what you're going to do for this one?
Not so much like direct correlation, I would say, from the fights. I think I learned a lot from that last fight just because of, for myself, not so much as the fight itself, really had to evaluate was just continuing to have a wrestler's mindset in the sport of MMA is will get you hurt. Because I went into numerous fights with big injuries that I don't think other professional fighters would go into, but for some reason, I thought that I would still be successful, and I didn't have to. I thought I was above it. I think that's when you don't get the sport of MMA, it's respect, regardless of who you're fighting. That's when you put yourself in a position to get knocked out. And I said that to people before, but yet for some reason I thought I was exempt during that fight, before that fight, and it came back into shooting me in the ass. But I think that was, for me, the biggest thing, learning that I couldn't continue the same mentality of always competing at not 100%, and just not giving the respect to the sport itself, and making sure that if I can't fight, if I wouldn't feel comfortable fighting myself at not being 100%, then I shouldn't feel like I can fight anybody else at 80%.
Yeah, and it seems like the mindset pretty much immediately redirected to kind of getting back on the grind there. I mean, you kind of had to deal with a couple of those private page tough guys on Instagram type of thing, but it seems like you got back to it real quick.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that was another thing. I was so emotional right after the fight that I started responding to those private pages and people that were just out there picking fights for no reason, just wanting to talk some shit finally because they had something to say. And I had to let that stuff go and just really get back to focusing on me and what I did wrong. And I think that's the biggest part. You got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, these are the things you did to allow that to happen. So it's just more about looking at myself in the mirror and letting my coach know, because my coach took the loss pretty personally. He thought I was going to take it a lot worse and try to point blame. But no, I knew it was all on me. I knew my coach my coach really told me that whole camp. He was like, Tyrell, you shouldn't fight. And my camp was horrible. I got the flu right before the fight. I got a cold earlier in the camp. Had a knee injury early in the camp that put me out, and then I had one right before the fight. So there was a lot of things that was going on that my coach was telling me, hey, man, you're not at 100%. You shouldn't be doing this. And my head was just so big at that point. I was doing interviews with ESPN. I was talking to TMZ. And it just felt like everything that I was finding, that notoriety that I was finally working towards and building that, all right, man, my brand and my name is getting out there. People are starting to talk about me. I'm starting to get these big interviews, and I didn't want to stop it. I didn't want to take away from everything I felt like I had been working for. And so it just caught up to me. I think you really have to try to separate that, building your brand and your name and the fight game, because those are two different games. And when you're trying to play both of them the whole time during a fight camp, right before a fight, it fucks your mind up. You're not really focused on your opponent. You're not focused on what you should be getting ready for is this fight. Not anything after that. Everything else will really take care of itself if you perform how you should.
Yeah, and you talk about some of those like big interviews you were getting, and I mean that's a great champion mindset that you articulated there, just kind of getting back on track. But in some of those bigger interviews with like ESPN and stuff like that, when you were talking about just the backstory of like the weight cut where they declared you dead and you kind of came back from the dead. I mean, I think even an instance like that shows you're able to overcome literally anything. Like to rebound from the first pro loss, I mean, it seems like very, I guess, inconsequential as compared to like the fact that you came back from the dead and everything like that. So you got a great champion mindset in a lot of regards there, it seems.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about the opponent here for this fight here. Like if you've gotten to like, I guess, check out like much tape on them, or if you're kind of like focusing on what you're doing specifically and then allocate that to people in your camp. Like, I guess, what's your familiarity with Jack May and his skill set?
I watched a couple of his fights. I really leave that up to my coaches. Really, for all my fights, I don't really try to pay attention too much to what they do. Most of my camp is always pretty much directed at continuing to learn more and develop my game. But we sat down, we watched a few of his fights, see what he likes to do, what he's good at. And he's an experienced fighter. He's fought in a lot of different leagues: Glory, Bellator, UFC, bare knuckles. So he has experience, and so that was the one thing we looked at, and just seeing what he really tries to rely on, and where I could exploit my advantages.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a well-traveled veteran, good opponent to be getting in there with, and yeah, an individual who, yeah, like you said, returning to the Bellator fold, got a victory there a bit ago, so a great way to kind of be getting back to it. But I'm curious because I'd seen a post you'd put up a little bit ago, like ahead of your Bellator 216 fight, specifically just like the walkout and how the crowd noise ended up giving you chills and stuff like that. Obviously for this one here, that dynamic is not going to be there. I'm kind of curious if you've thought about that a little bit and if the whole crowd not being there is going to inform the performance at all. Like, do you think it's going to feel a great deal different when you're out there?
No, I mean, to me, the crowd doesn't make a difference at all. From the fights, I really don't focus on the crowd or pay attention too much, to it at all. So, no, I think not having the crowd there is going to just basically make it easier. That form of anxiety is no longer present. So now to focus on what my opponent's doing and my coach, and what he's saying and what he's saying will be easier to hear and easier to, I think, implement what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Losing the crowd is a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, do you think it maybe be more akin to like a sparring session almost, like getting out there and training kind of thing? Have you been doing certain things in your preparations? Or?
No, I mean, I didn't change anything up as far as for the audience or anything. I just think, like you said, it makes it a lot easier not having that stressor there and being able to just hear my coach a lot clearer and not the crowd only brings a little bit of anxiety. They don't really determine the fighter doing anything. It's just that anxiety there, the pressure of the yelling and the screaming and trying to muffle out those voices compared to your coaches and trying to implement what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. I just know because certain fighters have some fighters have done things like eliminating like music from their camps and stuff like that. But I mean, it's good that it's business as usual for you and things weren't that affected. But yeah, I also kind of wanted to ask about National Dog Day a little bit. It looks like you and your son Oso there were kind of hanging out. Do you guys get up to anything for National Dog Day? You take the little guy on a walk or whatever?
Oh yeah, he goes and runs with me all the time. And I just got him. He's a puppy. He's like 5 months now and like 70 pounds. So he's huge. He just keeps growing. Man, that's like you said. That's my son. I love him to death. I'm missing him right now. So no, I think he was a great addition to my life. I love having him.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome dog.
Yeah, I mean, such a great kind of companion for sure. It's always good to have a little furry buddy in your life, but I also want to be mindful of your time here, man. It's good that you were able to make some time to speak to me, but I'm curious if there's anything you'd like to sort of add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here.
I really wanted to give a shout out to my sponsor. I think my number one sponsor, TBC Network, and thank them for everything that they do for me. So for me, they're the number one CBD company that I only use. And they're amazing people, amazing company, and definitely amazing products that I think everybody in the MMA world should definitely look at or try, because these guys are on the cusp and they're doing everything clean, natural, the right way. So it's never really worried about what's going to be in any pollution in the product. So I love those guys as far as sponsorship in the company, because they're really, I feel like, there's a sponsor that really just cares about my success. It's not about me building that brand and getting them more viewers or more customers. They're really, truly about helping my life and making it easier for me. So I just really want to shout those guys out and thank them for everything that they do for me.
Well, I love you have that kind of sponsorship dynamic where there's that vested interest just beyond it being a business partnership. So great to hear that, but this is going to be a great fight coming up here on September 11th. Bellator 245, got Jack May and Tyrell Fortune locking it up in a big heavyweight tilt. Thanks for all the time and insights, man. It was great getting to talk to you. Best of luck with the remaining part of the preparations here, and just also you have a good rest of your day too there, man.